The Great Migration versus the Rise of the Sun Belt by Kyle Hicks, Liz Brambert, Shane Dolt, and Kyle Webster. The Great Migration. The Great Migration was the mass movement of an estimated 6 million African Americans from the South to the North between 1910 and 1970, predominantly during World War I and World War II. This occurred as a result of open industrial jobs and new social opportunities presented in the North, as well as elevated prejudice, discrimination, and economic struggles against blacks in the rural South. The Great Migration continued. After Reconstruction of the South, white supremacy overtook the region once again, and blacks were forced into a harsh system of sharecropping to survive. To escape this and the discriminatory Jim Crow laws, the movement to the North began. However, once in the North, blacks experienced poor conditions as they were corralled into rural cities and forced to compete for decent employment and living spaces. Instead of segregation laws and discriminatory practices, prejudice and racism were thrust upon the migrants for their great numbers and influence of post-Civil War groupings.
How did the migration happen? More often than not, business owners and labor agents from the North would pay to transport Southern blacks to their organization for labor or strike breaking, creating a steady flow of labor supply as others became influenced to move and find a better life. Inner movements. As a part of the Great Migration, the Harlem Renaissance took place from 1920 to the mid-1930s. As a black movement to the North, the Harlem Renaissance took place as an attempt to gain freedom of expression through culture and art. Centered in Harlem, New York, African American literature, artwork, music, and other liberal arts stemmed from creative artists attempting to make a statement about the hardships they must endure. The Renaissance displayed that smaller movements occurred within the Great Migration, all of which came together to influence their lives for the better. And this picture depicts where Southerners moved to. Impact of the Great Migration. Due to the Great Migration, populations of the North greatly increased in the early to mid-20th century, and racial tensions soared to even greater heights. However, the war industries greatly benefited during World War I and World War II, as production was at an all-time, and wars were able to be won with elevated power. Cultural evolutions took place, while America was exposed to African American thoughts and works.
The rise of the Sun Belt. Beginning in 1945, the rise of the Sun Belt was the mass migration of people from rural areas of the North to the South and West regions of the United States. To this day, the migration continues and the populations of the Sun Belt increase annually. Due to increasing populations in the North between the 1910 and 1950, many people, mostly middle-class whites who could afford to move, migrated to suburban cities in the South to escape overpopulation. The Sun Belt consists of the states Alabama, Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Nevada, New Mexico, South Carolina, and Texas, all of which are notable for their favorable weather and landscape. The rise of the Sun Belt continued. The Sun Belt also attracted many due to new employment options, agriculture and manufacturing, low taxes, and increased technological opportunities. Oil, military, and aerospace industries, as well as retirement communities, agricultural opportunities, tourism, suburban communities, and mild weather drew in populations. Immigrants from Mexico came to the Sun Belt in addition to migrants from within the country for agricultural possibilities and new labor supply and demand. The Sun Belt. And this image shows the states that were included in the Sun Belt. Impact of the Sun Belt. Population levels in the north sharply decreased and northern industries were greatly maimed. Over time, the federal government began to support immigration to the Sun Belt as federal defense spending for weapon systems and military installations went to the new industries. Most importantly, congressional power shifted with immense amount of migrating citizens to the Sun Belt, leaving the North weak and vulnerable to subjection. Impact of the Sun Belt continued. Due to the beginning of areas such as NASA and technological businesses like Microsoft, the country's advancements in both the Cold War and internal improvements were made possible. American general was expanded to its outer borders, bringing further influence to the nation and propelling the impact of subcultures across the old regions of the nation.
Similarities. Both are large-scale movements of people to more desirable locations. Also, they offered people better economic and cultural opportunities as well. Both locations experienced economic booms because of population increase, and both resulted in increased job opportunities in productions and industries. Both the rise of the Sun Belt and the Great Migration were supported by the federal government as well. The Sun Belt was supported because it moved people out of the overcrowded cities and into smaller, more spread out towns.
Differences. The Great Migration consisted primarily of African Americans moving north, while the Sun Belt is a migration not limited to one ethnic group. Additionally, the Great Migration occurred in short bursts of time during nationwide times of crisis. But in contrast, the Sun Belt migration occurred gradually. The Great Migration was centered around industrialization. Meanwhile, the rise of the Sun Belt is centered around the creation of new technologies and discoveries.
Greatest impact. The rise of the Sun Belt had the greatest impact on American history because of the advances it produced in the field of technology, which has been incorporated into today's society. Companies such as Apple, NASA, and Microsoft have developed into massive multinational conglomerates, advancing the economy and technological power of America. The rise of the Sun Belt resulted in the rapid development of America's space program, leading to victory in the space race over the USSR and the development of America's space exploration programs. The growth of the Sun Belt allowed for greater development of the South and Southwest, which let people spread from cities to the north and into suburbs of small cities in the west. Along with advancing technology, the Sun Belt also resulted in the creation of many military bases in the South. The Sun Belt migration had caused an increase in the technology and military sectors of the American economy and created an economic boom in those areas. Works cited.